Listen, when it comes to relationships, love doesn't mean you throw away your power. Too many women make the mistake of oversharing, revealing things to a man that should never leave their lips, no matter how much they care. And when you do, you don't just weaken the relationship, you weaken yourself. Today, I'm going to break down the 5 things you should never tell a man if you want to protect your respect, your confidence, and your future. When it comes to building and maintaining a strong relationship, one of the most overlooked yet critical aspects is how you manage your own insecurities. Too often, people mistake vulnerability for honesty, thinking that sharing every single fear or doubt is a sign of love and trust. But the truth is, there's a fine line between opening up and diminishing your own value in someone's eyes. Insecurities are natural. We all have them. They come from past experiences, failures, comparisons, and even society's constant pressure. But the way you handle them in a relationship determines whether they strengthen the bond or sabotage it. The moment you start confessing insecurities in a way that undermines your worth, you plant seeds of doubt not only in your partner's mind but also in your own. Words have power, and once spoken, you cannot take them back. If you constantly tell a man, "I'm not good enough," "I don't deserve you," or "I'm afraid you'll leave me," what you're doing is teaching him to see you through that lens. Instead of viewing you as confident, capable, and valuable, he begins to view you as fragile, dependent, and replaceable. Respect is the foundation of every lasting relationship, and respect cannot exist without confidence. When you strip away your own self-worth with insecure confessions, you weaken that respect. What makes insecurities dangerous is not that you have them, it's how you express them. There's a difference between acknowledging your struggles and making them the narrative of your relationship. For example, it's okay to admit that you sometimes feel nervous about your career or that you've had difficult experiences in the past, but it becomes destructive when you present those feelings as proof that you're unworthy of love or success. Men, just like women, are drawn to strength, not perfection, but strength is about resilience and self-assurance, not self-doubt. If you constantly seek validation from your partner by unloading your deepest insecurities, it creates an imbalance where he feels pressured to reassure you endlessly. Over time, this dynamic leads to frustration and emotional exhaustion. What began as a cry for comfort becomes a burden, and instead of pulling him closer, it pushes him away. The healthier approach is to address insecurities privately first. Work on them through self-reflection, growth, and discipline before bringing them into the relationship. A man should witness your strength more than your doubts. When he sees you facing challenges with determination, he admires and respects you. When he sees you drowning in insecurities, he may sympathize at first, but eventually that sympathy shifts into disconnection. Relationships are meant to elevate both people, not weigh one person down with constant reminders of fragility. By guarding the insecurities that diminish your value, you show emotional intelligence. You prove that you are in control of your own narrative and that you know your worth even when life tests you. It's not about pretending to be perfect. It's about refusing to let your insecurities define how you are perceived by the person you love. Ultimately, the more you reinforce your own confidence, the less power your insecurities have over you. Instead of looking to your partner to fill the gaps of your self-esteem, you fill them yourself. That strength not only makes you more attractive, but also creates a healthier relationship dynamic where love is based on respect and equality, not fear or dependency. A man should see you as someone who knows her value, stands in her power, and refuses to be diminished by doubts that do not define her. Revealing financial weakness or dependency is one of the quickest ways to shift the power dynamic in a relationship, and not in your favor. Money is not just about numbers in a bank account. It's about responsibility, independence, and security. When you openly share that you cannot manage your finances, that you rely heavily on someone else to take care of you, or that you are drowning in financial chaos, you risk being seen as a liability rather than a partner. In the beginning, a man may step in and feel protective, offering help or guidance, but over time, That sense of responsibility can turn into resentment. A relationship thrives when both individuals bring strength to the table, and financial independence is a critical part of that strength. The moment you reveal financial instability in a way that highlights dependency, you undermine the respect and balance in the relationship. Think about it. Financial independence communicates discipline, control, and foresight. It shows that you can stand on your own 2 feet and that you're not looking for someone to rescue you. When you confess financial weakness too openly, you may think you're being honest or transparent, but what you're really doing is signaling that you cannot fully manage your life without assistance. Men are naturally drawn to women who have their own ambitions, their own drive, and their own sense of responsibility. They want a partner, not another dependent. By broadcasting dependency, you unintentionally create an unequal dynamic where he becomes the provider and you become the one waiting to be provided for. This does not create long-term attraction. Instead, it builds a structure where power tilts to one side. It's important to understand that there is a huge difference between discussing financial goals and exposing financial instability. If you talk about wanting to invest, save, or build wealth together, that demonstrates ambition and vision. But if you reveal that you are careless with money, always in debt, or constantly in need of financial help, you show recklessness and lack of self-control. This doesn't inspire confidence, it creates worry. Even if a man deeply cares for you, hearing that you cannot manage finances responsibly forces him to question the future. Can he trust you to make sound decisions? Can he build a stable life with you? These questions inevitably shape the way he views the relationship. This doesn't mean you must be rich or flawless with money, but you must project responsibility. You must show that you are capable of standing on your own without needing rescue. A woman who demonstrates financial independence radiates confidence and self-respect. She shows she values herself enough to build stability and security. That kind of energy attracts admiration because it reflects maturity. Men respect women who know how to handle their own lives, and money is a huge part of that equation. Even if you face financial struggles, the way you carry yourself matters more than the numbers. Instead of revealing weakness, frame your situation with strength. Talk about how you're working to improve, how you're disciplined with your budget, how you're determined to build wealth over time. By refusing to confess financial dependency, you protect not only your image but also the relationship's balance. You prevent power from shifting away from you and maintain the equality that sustains respect. At the end of the day, financial independence is not just about money, it's about freedom, self-worth, and the ability to stand in your power without leaning on someone else to define your future. Sharing every detail about your past relationships is a mistake that many people make, believing that transparency equals trust. While honesty is important, there's a big difference between being open and oversharing. When you dive into the specifics of your past, how many people you dated, the mistakes you made, the ways you were hurt, you aren't just giving information, you're giving away power. A man who hears all about your past relationships can start to measure himself against them, whether he admits it or not. He may wonder if he is better, worse, or just another temporary chapter in your story. Instead of strengthening the bond, excessive sharing can trigger insecurity, competition, or even judgment. The truth is, no man needs to know every detail of who came before him, because what matters most is who you are now and how you show up in this relationship. When you confess past mistakes in detail, you also risk lowering your own value. Imagine telling a man that you allowed someone to mistreat you, cheat on you, or take advantage of you repeatedly. While you may intend this as a lesson learned, what you're really showing is a history of tolerating behavior that should never have been accepted. Instead of hearing that you've grown stronger, he may wonder why you allowed it in the first place or whether you will allow it again. Men respect women who set boundaries and command respect. By overly exposing stories of where you lack them, you shift the perception of yourself from empowered to fragile. This does not mean you need to hide your past, but you must be selective about what you reveal and how you reveal it. Details about ex-partners also have a way of lingering in the mind. Once you tell a man about the romantic trips you took, the intimate things you shared, or the mistakes you regret, those images don't disappear. They can resurface in moments of conflict, insecurity, or even comparison. He may not say it out loud, but it can affect how he views you and the relationship. Why plant those unnecessary seeds of doubt when they serve no purpose in building the future you want? Respect yourself enough to keep some chapters of your story closed. Your past is a part of you, but it does not define you, and it certainly doesn't need to be replayed for someone else's judgment. Another reason to avoid sharing too much about past relationships is that it subtly shifts the focus of your current relationship backward instead of forward. If conversations constantly return to what happened before, it creates a ghost of your past that lives in your present. No relationship can thrive when it's haunted by comparisons and memories of others. The healthiest relationships are built on creating new experiences, not reliving old ones. By keeping the focus on what you're building now, you create space for growth, intimacy, and connection that is fresh and untainted by old wounds. Protecting your privacy isn't the same as being dishonest. It's about safeguarding your dignity and controlling your narrative. The key is to share lessons, not details. If you learned from your past, communicate the growth, that you now understand your worth, that you no longer tolerate disrespect, that you know how to love more wisely. This shows maturity and strength without diminishing your value. But don't hand someone a map of your past mistakes that they can use against you, even unintentionally. What matters most is the person you've become, not the mistakes you made. By keeping detailed stories of past relationships to yourself, you maintain mystery, preserve self-respect, and ensure that your current relationship is rooted in the present, not in the shadows of your past. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is downplaying their goals or ambitions in order to make someone else feel more comfortable. It often happens subtly. You might avoid talking about your career dreams because you don't want to seem too ambitious, or you shrink your vision for the future because you fear it will intimidate him. Sometimes you even convince yourself that sacrificing your own goals is a sign of love or compromise. But the truth is, every time you minimize your ambitions, you are not only betraying yourself, you are teaching the other person how to see you. If you show him that your goals can be pushed aside easily, he will treat them as unimportant, and over time, you will start to feel the weight of that choice in the form of resentment, frustration, and a loss of self-respect. Ambition is not something to apologize for. It is a reflection of your drive, your vision, and your belief in what you are capable of achieving. When you mute that part of yourself, you are silencing your most powerful qualities. A man who truly respects and values you will never ask you to shrink so he can feel taller. He will want to see you grow, succeed, and thrive because your strength becomes part of the foundation of the relationship. But when you take it upon yourself to downplay your goals, you rob both yourself and the relationship of that strength. Instead of being partners who push each other higher, you create an imbalance where one person's dreams take priority and the other person becomes secondary. There is also another danger in minimizing your ambitions. It sends the message that your self-worth is negotiable. If you are willing to let go of your dreams in order to be accepted, you are essentially saying that your identity depends on someone else's approval. That is not love, it is dependency. Real love requires two whole individuals coming together, not one person shrinking to fit into the other's shadow. When you stand firm in your goals, you show that you know who you are and where you're going. That certainty inspires respect, even if it challenges him at first. Confidence is magnetic, and nothing is more powerful than a person who refuses to apologize for wanting more out of life. Many women fall into the trap of believing that ambition will make them too much, or that it threatens a man's ego, But the truth is, the right man will never be threatened by your goals. If he is, that speaks more about his insecurities than about your worth. You cannot dim your light to make someone else more comfortable, because once you start, it becomes a habit. Soon you are constantly second, guessing yourself, holding back opportunities, and living a smaller life than you deserve. That is not love. It is self-abandonment, and the longer you abandon yourself, the harder it becomes to reclaim your confidence. By refusing to downplay your goals, you not only protect your self-respect, but you also set the standard for the relationship. You make it clear that you are someone with vision, purpose, and determination, and that you expect to be with someone who supports that. This doesn't mean you need to dominate or control, but it does mean you must honor your own path. A strong partnership is built when two people bring their full selves into the relationship, not when one person hides their light so the other can shine brighter. Never sacrifice your goals for love, because any love that requires you to shrink isn't real love. It's control disguised as care. When you stand firm in your ambitions, you not only honor yourself, but also create a relationship rooted in mutual respect, equality, and growth. Exposing family secrets or private vulnerabilities to a man, no matter how much you love him, can be one of the most damaging things you do to yourself and your relationships. Every family has its struggles, flaws, and private matters that aren't meant for outsiders. Sharing them in detail might feel like an act of trust, but once those words leave your mouth, they can never be taken back. What begins as a moment of closeness can quickly turn into ammunition that may be used against you, even unintentionally. A man may see your family differently, treat them differently, or even begin to judge you through the lens of what you revealed. There are some things that should stay sacred, and your family's private struggles fall into that category. Protecting that boundary is not dishonesty, it's wisdom. The same goes for your deepest personal vulnerabilities. Everyone has weak spots, insecurities, and soft places they guard carefully. These are the areas that, if exposed recklessly, can shift how someone perceives you. For instance, if you reveal the deepest pain you carry, a trauma you haven't fully healed from, or a private insecurity that eats away at your confidence, you may believe you're strengthening intimacy, but in reality, you're handing over a part of yourself that isn't ready to be held responsibly. Not everyone has the maturity, compassion, or discipline to handle that kind of information with care. Even if he never intends to, a man might see you as fragile, damaged, or overly dependent once you've laid bare certain vulnerabilities. Respect in relationships depends not only on love, but also on how you present yourself. When you reveal too much of your fragility too soon, you risk being seen as less capable or less strong than you really are. There's also the issue of permanence. Once you disclose family secrets or deeply personal vulnerabilities, they can never be unheard. Arguments, breakups, or even casual conversations may bring those details back to the surface. Something you said in trust could become a weapon, a point of judgment, or a permanent stain in his memory. This doesn't mean the man you love will always use it against you, but the possibility exists, and once that boundary is crossed, you can't undo it. True power lies in discernment, knowing what to share, when to share it, and what to hold back. That control not only protects you, but also maintains a sense of dignity and strength in the relationship. It's worth remembering that mystery is part of attraction. You don't need to expose every part of yourself for someone to love you deeply. In fact, the more you protect certain aspects of your story, the more respect you command. This doesn't mean you hide who you are or pretend to be perfect. It means you're intentional about what you reveal. Share growth, lessons learned, and strengths you've gained, but keep sacred the pieces of your story that could undermine your power or your family's dignity. A man doesn't need to know every wound you carry to love you. He needs to see how you rise in spite of them. By safeguarding your family's private matters and your own deepest vulnerabilities, you show that you value boundaries, privacy, and self-respect. You demonstrate that not everything is for public consumption, even within a relationship. That level of self-control commands admiration because it shows you're not careless with trust. Love is about closeness, but closeness does not require complete exposure. It requires mutual respect, understanding, and the wisdom to protect the parts of yourself that should remain private. A woman who knows what to guard and what to reveal holds the kind of power that cannot be shaken, no matter what challenges a relationship may bring.